Question 1. Liability insurance coverage. A restaurant owner, MS. Taylor is being sued after a customer slipped and fell on a wet floor. The customer claims that the restaurant did not adequately warn patrons about the slippery conditions. Which type of insurance would best cover MS? Taylor's potential legal expenses related to this claim: A. Professional liability insurance. B. Commercial general liability (CGL) insurance. C. Workers' compensation insurance. D. Uninsured motorist coverage. Answer: B. Commercial general liability (CGL) insurance. Explanation: Commercial general liability (CGL) insurance is specifically designed to protect business owners from claims arising from bodily injury or property damage occurring on their premises. In this scenario, MS. Taylor's restaurant could be held liable for the customer's injuries due to negligence in maintaining a safe environment, which is covered under coverage of the CGL policy, while the other options are incorrect. A. Professional liability insurance protects professionals against claims of negligence in the performance of their professional duties, which is not applicable in this case. C. Workers' compensation insurance covers employees injured on the job, not customers. D. Uninsured motorist coverage protects against damages caused by uninsured drivers and is irrelevant to the situation. Question 2. Scenario-based question. Mr. Johnson, a small business owner, receives a notice that a former employee is suing him for wrongful termination. The employee claims that Mr. Johnson violated employment laws. Mr. Johnson holds a standard commercial general liability (CGL) policy and is considering whether this policy will cover the lawsuit. What should Mr. Johnson do next? A. Immediately file a claim under his CGL policy. B. Review the policy's exclusions and consult with an insurance agent. C. Prepare to settle the lawsuit out of court. D. Ignore the notice since it is from a former employee. Answer: B. Review the policy's exclusions and consult with an insurance agent. Explanation: It is crucial for Mr. Johnson to understand the specific coverage and exclusions of his CGL policy. Generally, CGL policies do not cover employment-related claims such as wrongful termination, as these are typically excluded. Consulting with an insurance agent can help Mr. Johnson determine whether he has any other insurance that may provide coverage, such as employment practices liability insurance, while the other options are incorrect. A. Immediately filing. A claim could lead to complications if the claim is not covered. C. Preparing to settle is premature without understanding his coverage. D. Ignoring the notice could result in a default judgment against him if the lawsuit proceeds without his response. Question 3. Risk management principles. A manufacturer discovers that a batch of products has a defect that could potentially cause injuries to consumers. In order to mitigate risks associated with this situation, which of the following actions should the manufacturer prioritize first? A. Notify their insurance provider and file a claim. B. Initiate a recall of the defective products to prevent potential harm. C. Increase liability coverage limits on their existing insurance policies. D. Wait for consumer complaints to arise before taking any action. Answer: B. Initiate a recall of the defective products to prevent potential harm. Explanation: The manufacturer's priority should be to protect consumers from harm by initiating a recall of the defective products. This action demonstrates a commitment to safety and can help mitigate potential liability claims that may arise from injuries caused by the defect. Proactively addressing the issue reduces the likelihood of extensive damages and legal repercussions, while the other options are incorrect. A. Notifying the insurance provider is important, but it should not be the first action taken in response to a potential injury risk. C. Increasing liability coverage limits is a reactive measure and does not address the immediate risk posed to consumers. D. Waiting for consumer complaints is irresponsible and can result in severe injury and legal action as it fails to take proactive steps in risk management. Question 4. Understanding loss exposure. A large retail chain experiences a significant data breach exposing sensitive customer information. What type of insurance would best protect the retailer against claims related to this incident? A. Commercial general liability (CGL) insurance. B. Cyber liability insurance. C. Errors and omissions insurance. D. Directors and officers (DO) liability insurance. Answer: B. Cyber liability insurance. Explanation: Cyber liability insurance is specifically designed to protect businesses from losses related to data breaches and cyber attacks. In this scenario, the retailer faces potential legal claims and regulatory fines due to the exposure of sensitive customer data, making cyber liability insurance the most appropriate coverage, while the other options are incorrect. A commercial general liability (CGL) insurance does not cover data breaches or cyber-related risks. C. Errors and omissions insurance protects against claims of negligence in the performance of professional services, which is not applicable here. D. Directors and officers. DO liability insurance protects corporate executives against claims of mismanagement but does not cover data breaches directly. Question 5. Claims process and handling. During a claims investigation, the claims adjuster discovers evidence that suggests the insured may have been fraudulent in filing the claim. What is the primary duty of the claims adjuster in this situation? A. Approve the claim to maintain customer satisfaction. B. Immediately deny the claim and notify the insured. C. Conduct a thorough investigation and report findings to the insurer. D. Recommend legal action against the insured without further evidence. Answer. C. Conduct a thorough investigation and report findings to the insurer. Explanation. The primary duty of the claims adjuster is to conduct a thorough investigation when evidence of possible fraud arises. The adjuster must gather all relevant information and document their findings before making any recommendations regarding the claim. Transparency and adherence to legal and ethical standards are crucial in this process. While the other options are incorrect, A. Approving the claim without proper investigation could result in legal repercussions and financial losses for the insurer. B. Immediately denying the claim without a full investigation may violate the insured's rights and lead to legal challenges. D. Recommending legal action without sufficient evidence undermines the investigation process and could expose the insurer to liability. Question 6. Nebraska insurance regulations. In Nebraska, which of the following statements is true regarding the licensing of casualty insurance agents? A. Casualty insurance agents are not required to complete continuing education requirements. B. Agents must pass a written examination to obtain their license. C. Only agents selling personal lines of insurance require a license. D. Agents can operate in Nebraska without being registered in the state. Answer. B. Agents must pass a written examination to obtain their license. Explanation. In Nebraska, casualty insurance agents are required to pass a written examination as part of the licensing process to ensure they possess adequate knowledge of insurance laws, products, and ethical practices. This requirement helps maintain professional standards in the industry. While the other options are incorrect, casualty insurance agents are required to complete continuing education to keep their licenses active. C. All insurance agents, not just those selling personal lines, require a license to operate in Nebraska. D. Agents must be registered in the state to conduct insurance business legally. Question 7. Principles of contract law. Which of the following elements is essential for an insurance contract to be considered legally binding? A. Legal purpose. B. Only one party must provide consideration. C. A witness to the signing of the contract. D. All agreements are sufficient. Answer. A. Legal purpose. Explanation. For an insurance contract to be legally binding, it must have a legal purpose. This means the contract must involve lawful activity, otherwise it may be deemed void. All parties involved must also offer consideration, something of value, and contracts are generally required to be in writing for enforceability, but the key element highlighted here is the legality of the contract's purpose. While the other options are incorrect, B. Both parties must provide consideration. It is not valid if only one party provides it. C. A witness is not required for a contract to be legally binding unless specified by state law. D. Oral agreements are generally not sufficient in the insurance industry, as most insurance contracts must be in writing. Question 8. Risk management principles. A company implements a comprehensive risk management program to address potential losses. Which of the following strategies is the most effective initial step in managing risks? A. Purchasing additional insurance coverage. B. Conducting a risk assessment to identify exposures. C. Training employees on safety protocols. D. Establishing a crisis management plan. Answer. B. Conducting a risk assessment to identify exposures. Explanation. Conducting a risk assessment is the foundational step in managing risks. It allows the company to identify and evaluate potential exposures, which is essential for implementing effective risk management strategies. Once risks are identified, the company can explore appropriate measures such as purchasing insurance or training employees, while the other options are incorrect. A. Purchasing insurances. A reactive measure that should come after identifying and evaluating risks. C. Training employees on safety protocols is important but should be informed by the findings of the risk assessment. D. Establishing a crisis management plan is also crucial but should be based on the results of the risk assessment to be effective. Question 9. Understanding loss exposure. Which of the following best describes a vicarious liability situation in casualty insurance? A. A property owner is held liable for damages caused by their negligent acts. B. An employer is held responsible for the actions of an employee performed within the scope of employment. C. A manufacturer is liable for defective products sold by a retailer. D. A driver is held accountable for damages caused by an uninsured motorist. Answer: B. An employer is held responsible for the actions of an employee performed within the scope of employment. Explanation: vicarious liability refers to a legal doctrine whereby one party is held liable for the negligent actions of another, typically in an employer-employee relationship. If an employee causes harm while performing job duties, the employer may be held responsible under this doctrine, while the other options are incorrect. A property owner being liable for their own acts is not vicarious liability, it is direct liability. C. A manufacturer's liability for defective products relates to product liability, not vicarious liability. D. A driver's accountability for damages caused by an uninsured motorist does not relate to vicarious liability but to auto insurance coverage. Question 10. Claims process and handling. An insured individual submits a claim for damage caused by a storm. Upon investigation, the claims adjuster finds that the damage is partially due to the homeowner's failure to maintain the property. How should the adjuster proceed? A. Deny the entire claim due to lack of maintenance. B. Approve the claim and disregard maintenance issues. C. Approve the claim but reduce the payout based on the percentage of damage attributable to lack of maintenance. D. Recommend that the insured file a separate claim for maintenance issues. Answer: C. Approve the claim but reduce the payout based on the percentage of damage attributable to lack of maintenance. Explanation: in this situation, the claims adjuster should approve the claim for the storm damage that is covered under the policy but may need to reduce the payout based on the extent to which the lack of maintenance contributed to the damages. Insurers often apply the principle of contributory negligence when determining liability and payouts, while the other options are incorrect. A. Denying the entire claim is inappropriate because the storm damage may still be a covered peril. B. Approving the claim without regard to maintenance issues could lead to overpayment and financial losses for the insurer. D. Recommending a separate claim for maintenance issues is unnecessary and impractical. Maintenance issues are typically not covered under property insurance. Question 11. Legal concepts related to insurance. Which of the following statements accurately describes the concept of strict liability in the context of insurance? A. A party is held liable for negligence only if there is evidence of fault. B. A liability exists regardless of fault or intent when certain activities cause harm. C. A liability is limited to the actual damages incurred by the injured party. D. A party can only be held liable if they had a contractual obligation to the injured party. Answer: B. A liability exists regardless of fault or intent when certain activities cause harm. Explanation: strict liability holds a party responsible for their actions or products regardless of fault or intent, typically in cases involving inherently dangerous activities or defective products. This concept is critical in casualty insurance as it affects how claims are assessed and the extent of liability coverage. While the other options are incorrect, it describes negligence, which requires proof of fault. C. Refers to general liability principles, which may not apply in strict liability cases where liability is not dependent on fault. D. Pertains to contractual liability, which is distinct from strict liability concepts. Question 12. Insurance policies and coverage. A contractor's general liability policy includes an exclusion for property damage caused by your work. What is the primary implication of this exclusion for the contractor? A. The contractor is fully covered for all damages, regardless of the cause. B. Damages to property the contractor is working on are not covered. C. The contractor must purchase additional insurance to cover these risks. D. The exclusion only applies to completed work, not ongoing projects. Answer: B. Damages to property the contractor is working on are not covered. Explanation: the exclusion for property damage arising from your work means that any damage occurring to the property the contractor is directly working on will not be covered under the general liability policy. This exclusion emphasizes the need for contractors to consider additional coverage options, such as a separate professional liability policy. Why the other options are incorrect. A is incorrect because the exclusion explicitly limits coverage. C, while potentially true, is not the direct implication of the exclusion. D is misleading as exclusions generally apply to both ongoing and completed work unless specified otherwise in the policy. Question 13. Claims process and handling. During the claims process, an insured party disagrees with the settlement amount proposed by the claims adjuster. What is the best course of action for the insured? A. Accept the settlement without further discussion to avoid delays. B. File a complaint with the Nebraska Department of Insurance. C. Request a detailed explanation of the settlement calculation and consider negotiations. D. Immediately hire an attorney and threaten legal action. Answer. C. Request a detailed explanation of the settlement calculation and consider negotiations. Explanation. The insured should first seek clarity on how the settlement amount was determined. This approach allows for informed negotiations based on the specifics of the claim and policy coverage. Open communication can often lead to a satisfactory resolution without the need for escalation. Why the other options are incorrect. A. May result in an unsatisfactory outcome for the insured. B. Is premature without first attempting to resolve the disagreement with the insurer. D. Can escalate tensions unnecessarily and might not be the most effective first step in resolving a claims dispute. Question 14. Advanced topics in casualty insurance. In the context of employment practices liability insurance, which of the following claims would likely be covered under a typical policy? A. An employee's claim for work-related injury. B. A lawsuit alleging wrongful termination based on discrimination. C. A claim for property damage caused by an employee during work hours. D. A claim for breach of contract by a former employee. Answer. B. A lawsuit alleging wrongful termination based on discrimination. Explanation. The PLI covers claims made by employees against their employer for various employment-related issues including wrongful termination, discrimination, and harassment. These claims often arise from alleged violations of employment laws, making a PLI essential for employers. Why the other options are incorrect. A. Would typically fall under workers' compensation insurance, not a PLI. C. Relates to general liability insurance, which covers property damage but not employment practices. D. Pertains to contractual disputes, which are generally outside the scope of PLI coverage. Question 15. Risk management principles. An organization identifies potential risks in its operations and implements several control measures. Which of the following represents a risk control technique focused on loss prevention? A. Purchasing insurance to cover potential losses. B. Installing security systems to deter theft. C. Outsourcing high-risk tasks to specialized firms. D. Establishing a crisis management plan for emergencies. Answer. B. Installing security systems to deter theft. Explanation. Installing security systems is a proactive risk control technique aimed at preventing loss before it occurs. This approach directly reduces the likelihood of theft and associated losses, thereby enhancing the organization's overall risk management strategy. Why the other options are incorrect. A. Refers to risk transfer, not prevention. C. Is a strategy that may help mitigate risk but does not prevent loss directly. D. Is essential for managing crises but does not focus specifically on preventing losses. Question 16. Financial aspects of casualty insurance. What is the primary purpose of reserving in casualty insurance? A. To calculate the total premium income for the year. B. To ensure that sufficient funds are available to pay future claims. C. To determine the profitability of the insurance company. D. To manage the investment income generated from premiums. Answer. B. To ensure that sufficient funds are available to pay future claims. Explanation. Reserving is a crucial process in insurance where companies set aside funds to cover estimated future claims. This ensures that the insurer can meet its obligations to policyholders when claims are made, providing financial stability and protecting policyholder interests. Why the other options are incorrect. A. Focuses on income rather than obligations to policyholders. C. While reserving affects profitability, it is not the primary purpose. D. Relates to how insurers manage investments but is not the purpose of reserving. Question 17. Insurance policies and coverage. Which of the following is a defining characteristic of an occurrence policy in casualty insurance? A. Coverage is limited to claims made during the policy period. B. Coverage is triggered by incidents that occur during the policy period regardless of when the claim is filed. C. Premiums are based solely on the insured's claims history. D. Policies are automatically renewed each year without review. Answer: B. Coverage is triggered by incidents that occur during the policy period, regardless of when the claim is filed. Explanation: an occurrence policy provides coverage for claims arising from incidents that happen during the policy period, even if the claim is made after the policy has expired. This characteristic is essential for protecting insured parties against long-tail claims where the injury or damage may not be reported until much later. Why the other options are incorrect: A describes a claims-made policy which only covers claims made during the policy period. C relates to underwriting practices but does not define occurrence policies. D is unrelated to the characteristics of occurrence policies. Question 18. Nebraska Insurance Regulations. In Nebraska, what is the primary regulatory authority responsible for overseeing the insurance industry? A. Nebraska Department of Financial Institutions. B. Nebraska Department of Insurance. C. Nebraska Insurance Commission. D. Nebraska State Legislature. Answer: B. Nebraska Department of Insurance. Explanation: the Nebraska Department of Insurance is the regulatory authority overseeing insurance operations in the state. This department enforces insurance laws, protects consumers, and ensures the financial stability of insurance companies. Why the other options are incorrect: A focuses on financial institutions, not specifically insurance. C is a misnomer: the department is not formally referred to as the Nebraska Insurance Commission. D. While the legislature creates insurance laws, it is not the regulatory body enforcing them. Question 19. Understanding loss exposure. A homeowner has a homeowner's insurance policy that covers various perils. Which of the following would likely not be covered under a standard homeowner's policy? A. Water damage from a burst pipe. B. Damage from an earthquake. C. Theft of personal property. D. Fire damage to the structure. Answer: B. Damage from an earthquake. Explanation: standard homeowners insurance policies typically do not cover earthquake damage. Homeowners usually must purchase separate earthquake insurance to protect against this specific peril. This is an important consideration for homeowners in seismically active areas. Why the other options are incorrect: A. Water damage from a burst pipe is generally covered. C. Theft of personal property is covered under most policies. D. Fire damage is a common peril covered by homeowners insurance. Question 20. Claims process and handling. When handling claims, what is the primary role of the claims adjuster? A. To determine the cause of the loss without consulting the policyholder. B. To negotiate the final settlement amount with the insured. C. To evaluate the claim, investigate the circumstances, and assess the coverage under the policy. D. To deny all claims to maintain profitability for the insurance company. Answer: C. To evaluate the claim, investigate the circumstances, and assess the coverage under the policy. Explanation: the primary role of the claims adjuster is to thoroughly evaluate each claim, which includes investigating the details of the incident, gathering necessary documentation, and determining whether the claim falls under the coverage provided by the policy. The adjuster works to ensure that the claim is handled fairly and in accordance with the terms of the insurance contract. Why the other options are incorrect is misleading because adjusters typically consult with the policyholder to gather relevant information. B. While negotiation may occur, it is not the primary role. The adjuster must first assess the claim before discussing settlement amounts. D is inaccurate, as the goal of the adjuster is not to deny claims but to ensure proper assessment and adherence to policy coverage. Question 21. Liability insurance. Which of the following statements is true regarding liability insurance coverage? A. It only covers damages incurred by the insured party. B. It provides coverage for damages caused by third parties. C. It is designed to cover all types of damages without exclusions. D. It only applies to intentional acts committed by the insured. Answer: B. It provides coverage for damages caused by third parties. Explanation: liability insurance is primarily designed to protect the insured from claims made by third parties for damages or injuries they may have caused. This coverage typically includes bodily injury and property damage liability, ensuring that the insured is protected from financial loss resulting from lawsuits or claims. Question 22. Workers' compensation insurance. What is the primary purpose of workers' compensation insurance? A. To provide health benefits for employees injured on the job. B. To protect employers from being sued by employees for workplace injuries. C. To cover lost wages for employees who take sick leave. D. To ensure that employees receive bonuses for good performance. Answer: B. To protect employers from being sued by employees for workplace injuries. Explanation: workers' compensation insurance is designed to provide benefits to employees who are injured in the course of their employment while also protecting employers from lawsuits related to those injuries. This system ensures that injured workers receive necessary medical treatment and compensation for lost wages without needing to prove fault in a traditional liability claim. Question 23. Risk management principles. Which of the following is NOT, a technique used in risk management? A. Risk avoidance. B. Risk acceptance. C. Risk elimination. D. Risk transfer. Answer: C. Risk elimination. Explanation: while risk management techniques include risk avoidance, acceptance, and transfer, such as purchasing insurance, risk elimination is often not feasible. Instead, organizations aim to manage and minimize risks rather than eliminate them entirely. Question 24. Legal concepts related to insurance. Which of the following best define as avoidable contract? A contract that cannot be enforced by either party. B. A contract that is valid until one party decides to void it. C. A contract that has never been legally binding. D. A contract that can only be enforced by one party. Answer: B. The contract that is valid until one party decides to void it. Explanation: a voidable contract is a valid contract that can be enforced unless one party chooses to void it. This often occurs in situations involving misrepresentation, undue influence, or other issues that affect a party's consent. Unlike a void contract, which is never valid, a voidable contract remains in effect until annulled by the affected party. Question 25. Automobile insurance. What is the primary function of uninsured and underinsured motorist (UMUM) coverage in an auto insurance policy? A. To cover damages to your vehicle in a collision. B. To provide medical payments for you and your passengers. C. To protect against losses when the at-fault driver lacks adequate insurance. D. To cover rental car expenses while your vehicle is being repaired. Answer: C. To protect against losses when the at-fault driver lacks adequate insurance. Explanation: uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage protects you when you're involved in an accident with a driver who does not have insurance, uninsured, or whose insurance limits are insufficient to cover your damages, underinsured. This coverage ensures that you are compensated for your injuries and losses even if the other party is unable to pay. Question 26. Advanced topics in casualty insurance. Which of the following is a characteristic of directors and officers' DO liability insurance? A. It covers personal property losses incurred by directors and officers. B. It protects against claims arising from wrongful acts in their capacity as directors and officers. C. It provides coverage for workplace injuries sustained by employees of the company. D. It is only applicable to publicly traded companies. Answer: B. It protects against claims arising from wrongful acts in their capacity as directors and officers. Explanation: DO liability insurance is designed to protect individuals serving as directors or officers of a company from claims arising from alleged wrongful acts in their official capacity. This includes mismanagement, breaches of fiduciary duty, and other actions that could lead to lawsuits from shareholders, employees, or regulatory agencies. Question 27. Financial aspects of casualty insurance. Which of the following is typically included in an insurance company's balance sheet? A. Revenue from premiums written. B. Claims paid in the last fiscal year. C. Reserves for unpaid claims. D. Investment returns on stocks. Answer: C. Reserves for unpaid claims. Explanation: an insurance company's balance sheet reflects its financial position at a specific point in time, including liabilities such as reserves for unpaid claims. These reserves are crucial for ensuring that the insurer can meet its obligations to policyholders in the event of claims. Question 20. Nebraska insurance regulations. What is a key requirement for obtaining a casualty insurance license in Nebraska? A. Completing a minimum of 30 hours of classroom training. B. Passing the Nebraska casualty insurance exam with a score of at least 80%. C. Providing proof of employment with an insurance company. D. Submitting a written application that includes personal references. Answer: B. Passing the Nebraska casualty insurance exam with a score of at least 80%. Explanation: to obtain a casualty insurance license in Nebraska, candidates must pass the relevant licensing examination, demonstrating their understanding of insurance principles, regulations, and practices. A score of at least 80% is typically required to ensure adequate knowledge of the subject matter. Question 29. Understanding loss exposure. Which of the following describes property loss exposure? A. The risk of financial loss due to legal liability for injuries to others. B. The potential for loss or damage to physical assets owned by the insured. C. The likelihood of increased premiums due to poor claims history. D. The chance of loss associated with employee injuries. Answer: B. The potential for loss or damage to physical assets owned by the insured. Explanation: property loss exposure refers to the risk of financial loss arising from damage to or loss of tangible property. This can include buildings, equipment, inventory, and personal property. Understanding property loss exposure is critical for businesses to assess their insurance needs and implement risk management strategies. Answer: B. Review the denial letter for reasons and consult the policy. Explanation: when a policyholder receives a denial of their insurance claim, the first step should be to carefully review the denial letter, which should outline the reasons for the denial. The policyholder should then compare these reasons with the terms of their insurance policy to determine if the denial is justified. Understanding the specifics of the policy is crucial for any subsequent actions, including possible appeals. Question 30. Claims denial and appeal process. What is the first step a policyholder should take if they receive a denial of their insurance claim? A. Immediately file a lawsuit against the insurer. B. Review the denial letter for reasons and consult the policy. C. Call the insurance commissioner for assistance. D. Submit a new claim for the same loss.